Alright, in this video what we'll be doing is making the cow catcher. We're skipping over the linkage peg because it's the same principle as the hitch peg. Okay. The only difference is that here it gives you the diameter of 0.4 for that ridge, and what ends up happening down here on that linkage peg is that it gives you the spherical radius of 0.1562, and that's going to be when you dimension it from your center axis line to this end point. Okay, so that's what this dimension refers to. So if you have questions on that, you can go back and refer to those, either the axle peg video or the hitch peg video. So what we're going to be doing, like I said, is making the cow catcher. And for this one, what we'll do is we'll actually going to be using the loft tool, since we can't taper this at all when we extrude it, to get the specified dimensions. So what we're going to do, like I said, is loft. In order to do that, we need to start with two different sketches. So we need to create a sketch like normal. Okay, so this is 0.25. The length here is 1.8 and 0.25. So this one you need to be drawing it the same way that I go through, because if you end up missing steps or skipping around, it won't quite turn out, and it'll be basically easier just to start over. So what I did is like I said, I'm drawing this bottom shape, so the bottom of this shape right here, this outline. So I got the overall length here is 1.8, and basically the width of this edge for the pentagon is 0.25. Okay, so that's there. To get the shape of that point, you can see that it gives you the dimension from here to the center, which is 0.9. If you think about just like basic math, you have 18 right here, half of that is 9. Okay, so 0.9, that's that point, and from the back, the vertical distance is 1 inch forward. So what we're going to do is the easiest way is to actually create a point. You can kind of snap that in, and then dimension as well. So like I said, it should be 0.9. That should be fine. But your vertical distance, we said, was 1 inch. Okay. Now that I have there, that basically I have the legs of the triangle dimensioned. All I need is a hypotenuse. Okay, so I'm just drawing the hypotenuse in right there, and I'm going to connect that. Now my sketch is fully constrained. I can finish that, and before I extrude it, I want to actually create that second sketch, so I can loft between the two sketches. And how we do that is create a 2D sketch like normal, and when I place this one, I'm going to place it on top because I want to make sure that it's parallel with my original sketch, but I'm going to click and hold. So the big point here is click and hold and drag it back. So if you notice, like right now, it's saying that this plane that I'm trying to create is 1 inch away. If I push back, notice how it says it's -1. So it's just like your x and y axis. As you go to the right of the origin, you end up with your plus and your minus. We're dealing with the z origin right now. Okay, so it's looking for how far do we want to offset this, and that's found in the overall height. Okay, so right here it says the overall height of the object is 0.75 inches. So I'm going to type that in, 0.75. And what I want to do is basically make sure that these back two edges are, so this edge here and this edge here are basically right on top of each other. Okay, so that they're parallel and right on top and plumb. So what I need to do for that is make sure that I'm in my front view. Okay, so I'm not off to the side at all. So every once in a while I'll see you guys working with off on a 3D view. But whenever you're doing sketches, two-dimensional mode, you need to be viewing at it 2D. Okay, so that you can make sure that you're drawing, your lines plumb and vertical and horizontal when they need to be. Okay, so all I've done here, you can kind of see, is I have a plane running here, my sketch 1, and that sketch 2 is parallel to sketch 1, which is what we want, and it's offset a distance of 3/4 of an inch. Okay, so I'm going to find my front view, I'm going to project my geometry, and I just want to project the bottom line. Okay, so notice how that bottom line shows up right there. right now what's happening is for me, the work plane is kind of getting in the way. It's, kind of visually a sore. Okay, so what I want to do is I'm going to right click on the work plane and I'm going to take off the visibility. Okay, so now here I have basically just that line projected. So this line is the same one as that one for my first sketch. Now if we look back on our dimensions, we can see that the overall length of the top is only 1.2 inches, where the bottom, looking at here, it's 1.8. So notice how those slant in. Okay, so our center points, they line up, and we want to basically offset that difference from each end the same space. So I know that the length of this line is 1.2 inches, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw that in. 1.2 inches. Okay, now I'm going to have to do some math here. So if I have 0.18 and I have 0.12, I need to find the difference between that. So I need to take 0.18 and subtract 0.12, or basically 18 minus 12. Okay, so I know that 18 minus 12 gives me 6. Okay, so that's a 0.6 difference. Okay, so the difference between the length of this line and this line is 0.6. Now, if I dimension from the end point here to the end point of the line that I just created, 0.6, notice how it bumps it all the way over. So I need to split that difference, right? So I know that half of 6 is 3, so it's 0.3. Okay, now it's the same. This distance from the origin to the beginning of the line is 0.3. Same thing from the end point here to the outside of my drawing is also 0.3. Now, remember back here it said that these lines are typical. Okay, so it means that the height is 0.25 on both the bottom sketch and the top sketch. So I'm going to draw this line up here, 0.25, and same thing for this one, 0.25. Okay. Again, all I'm going to do is take my center point, place that there, and just dimension it from the origin over. It should be 0.9. Okay, and we lock that in. So these are lining up this way. Now what I want to do is get the distance from the front and the back. So how much do I want it to taper back? And you can find that in this top, kind of this top view right here. It's saying that from the back edge here to that end point, or to that point that we just created, is 0.75 inches. So I need to go ahead and do that. Dimension from the back, that top, give me a vertical, 0.75. And here all I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and click on this endpoint, zoom to the point that I just dimensioned, and I'm going to go ahead and close off that profile. So now what I have is two pentagons basically offset from each other 3/4 of an inch, and now I need to loft in between those so that I can create a nice smooth transition from one shape into the other. So I have my loft tool right here, right up there. I'm going to open that up. It says click to add a sketch. I want to add this sketch, so I can either just click on the sketch itself or over here in the browser menu by clicking sketch 1, click to add another sketch, sketch 2. So I need to click to add another sketch. Okay, so if I had 3 sketches, I could loft it between all 3 or 4 or 5, however many I had. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. Now, the next step that we have to do is a lot of people want to go ahead and create these setbacks, the profiles in the cow catcher, but what we actually want to do first is actually shell it, and I'll show you why, what ends up happening in the next video. So what we're going to do is we'll wrap this up by showing you how to shell this, and then we'll have the second part to finish this off. Okay, so for shell, if you notice here that you have this open side, or the bottom face, that's open. So basically, if we were to shell this, you have to get that's how the tool would get in there, so it saves on material and it's lighter weight. So I'm going to actually shell this up top here. You have your shell. It's asking what face do we want to remove. I want to remove the bottom, so I'm just going to click the bottom. The thickness that you have is read from this point here, so that's 0.1 inches. So it's already set to 0.1, but if it was something different, I would just click on that. If it was 0.2, you can see that how the thickness of the object changes and adjusts, and it's through all of my surfaces. So what it's basically saying is from each surface in, it's measuring 0.2 inches in, and the rest of that's being cut. Okay, so if I wanted, like I said, 0.1, it measures from this surface in 0.1, this surface in 0.1, all these surfaces, even from the top down 0.1. And all I'm going to do is go ahead and hit OK, and I have a shelled out cow catcher. Okay. Like I said, we'll stop that for part 1 and then continue on to part 2.